And a good undefeated Friday morning here on Birds 365. Mac and Mac guys here to hang for the next 2 hours. And we have a Birds 365 first. For the first time ever, the producer, the third person to join the stream. Johnny Mac and I kind of cut it close. We usually stream in with under a minute to go.
Yeah,
John
man.
John is almost always the last one, but he always makes it. He's here before 8 o'clock. Sometimes Jody Mac, a couple seconds late, gets lost in what he's doing. It's oh shoot, the show's starting. What the hell's going on? But we've never had our producer check in third. John and I were both ready to go and look at the clock, going, "Hey, it's past 8 o'clock here." I guess
Yeah.
Jeff Kerr was a little chatty today, huh, Johnny Mac?
Chatty Jeff Kerr. Yeah, it's one of those things. StreamYard, you can't do the overlap. So as a longtime radio guy, you got the overlaps, and we can't talk to Jeff and seamlessly move in. The streaming world's gotta fix that. How do you
Catch up.
like the overlap shows,
Oh, it
Jeff?
all depends on who you're overlapping with.
Yeah.
Some people are very good at it and make it enjoyable and look forward to it. Others just want to get the hell out of Dodge. So it all depends on who you're doing the overlap with.
I would be in the I want to get the hell out of Dodge category.
Category, yeah.
Yeah.
We'd love to talk to Jeff Kerr, but we can't. But he went a little long today, which means you're gonna get a little less of us. Or maybe we'll step on our boy Rick Saratelli's toes. You never know. You got to stick
We do
around.
that. I'm sure we've done that. I'm sure
Oh,
we have.
oh,
I
I
know
know.
I get too chatty at the end. I'm sure I've screwed that
I
up a
know
couple
we've
times.
run over a couple times, so we just busting stones on Jeff Kerr. Why? Because we can. No busting stones on the undefeated Eagles. Yes, we're getting closer to another Eagles game. It drags on these type of weeks when you go from Thursday all the way to Monday and no Eagle action. But there is some upside to it, Johnny Mac, because the Eagles have a couple of injury question marks, and tack on an extra 24, 30 some odd hours to get right. Don't know if they're going to, but because it was a pushback week, didn't get injury information till yesterday for the first time. And guess what? Eagles have a lot of resting guys again. That should come as no great surprise to anyone.
Yeah, well,
But
that's all year.
they do have some questions at the cornerback position coming up this week.
They do. Avante Maddox, I'm very confident. I was very confident last Thursday that he wasn't going to play because I saw the injury in full time, and I knew it was a hamstring, and I knew the position he played, and I knew it was going to be very difficult for him to get ready. Even with the extra time, the mini bye, and even the extra day on top of that, playing Monday night instead of Sunday. Um, and it looks like he wasn't. I'll give you an indication, a not good indication. He and Josh Joe both missed practice with hamstring injuries. But Josh was out there watching the practice, doing some things, mental reps, whatever. Avante wasn't even on the field. So I think his is much more serious. I would not count him playing on Monday night against Washington. The good news is Josiah Scott was back in a limited fashion. He missed the Houston game with an ankle injury. So he was back, and that's good news. To be back so early, with again the Monday night game, even though it's limited, that tells me he's on track to play, and that's helpful because he's the backup slot corner. They didn't have him in Houston. Avante went down. They had to do all this mixing and matching, and it was a surprise to me. Everybody's like, "Well, you put Chauncey in slot corner." They didn't do that. They put Marcus Epps there,
Right.
and they left Chauncey at safety, and they teamed him with Kayvon Wallace. So you don't want all those moving parts, whatever your decision is. So it's good news that Josiah Scott will probably, my guess would be the nickel corner against Washington.
All right. Worst case scenario, all three of the guys who have either most recently missed time or were limited in practice yesterday are all either unavailable, not playing, or start and come up lame with hamstrings and ankles because those things can go on any given play. Andre Sachre got called up to the roster from the practice squad. Certainly, he's a special teams guy who's going to play on the teams, but will he get any reps from the line of scrimmage perspective. Let's say all three guys are out and can't even play, can't even dress up. Who's the most likely other guy? Because they need one more D back. If you have three D backs out, another D back to add to the roster. Who would be the guy you think would most likely get a call up from the practice squad in addition to Sachere?
I think at that point, it'd probably be between Mac McCain and our old buddy, the Mac and Mac show. We got to get that going. It seems like he's been around forever. Or Mario Goodrich is still there. They also signed a former Jet that you might remember, Javelin Guidry.
That's where I was going. I thought he might be at the top of the list. Now, you're right. I saw him play. He's not great, but nor is McCain or any other D-backs they got on the practice squad. But kind of like the shiny new toy. Let's see if we can get a look at him. I would think he might be at the top of the list. Now,
if he plays like Ron Guidry, maybe, but I don't think. No, and I don't know. You probably know more about Javelin Guidry than I do, but I know from looking at him and his frame, he looks like a slot corner. He's 5'9". So to me, it would be difficult for him to play outside. Now, people have done it and people can do it. But you tend to have some problems playing outside. So it would depend on what you need. And in theory, the Eagles would need a slot corner. Now, again, Andre Sachere can play in the slot. They've proven they put Marcus Epps in the slot, so they think he can do it. We know Chauncey can do it. So they have a lot of different options before they got to get down to Javelin Guidry. That's one of the good things about this team is the depth. And again, I think when we talk about depth, they're thinking I don't want any of those players in the slot, to be honest. I don't want any of them in the slot. But it's nice to have that fallback if you need to go to it. And I don't think ultimately the Eagles would need to go to it. But, Guidry is just got here. And if you're looking for an outside corner, because Josh Jobe I didn't mention because he's not playing slot corner.
Right.
And you're health with your starters, thankfully, at outside corner. So you're not looking for an outside corner. Mac has played a little bit in the slot. He's been here longer. And Goodrich has been here since the start of the summer. I would think they would default. He can play the slot as well. I would think they would default to those guys before Javelin Guidry. But the good news is I don't think they have to go down that far because they already have players on the roster that can handle the job short term at least.
Key guy is going to be Josiah Scott's health. As you said, he was out there yesterday. He was limited in practice without being able to watch cell practice. You don't know how close or fit he is for duty, but that's better than last week when he missed the entire game. So it's certainly something worth keeping an eye on game day. The matchup between the Commanders and the Eagles. Saw a couple quotes from Jimmy Johnson yesterday, the former Cowboy coach, who said the Eagles will have a tougher time when they have to match up with a team for the second time in any given year, which we know will include the 3 divisional matchups they'll play twice. Giants haven't played once yet, but they will have to play Giants twice over the second half of the year, and they got a return match with both the Cowboys and the Commanders this week. That the Eagle offense is unique, and that because they score all the points that they do in the second quarter, that teams kind of figure them out in the second half. I think it's kind of a simplistic look at the Philadelphia Eagles between you and I, or should I not be second guessing a guy who's got his couple Super Bowl rings? You buy into Jimmy Johnson's theory of the more you see the Eagles, the more competitive you can be against the undefeated Eagles.
Yes and no. And let me explain what I mean by that. Jimmy's right. I've said this a lot of times. The Eagles are not a complicated offense. They are not a complicated. This is not Bill Walsh. This is not the West Coast offense. This is not the verbiage that you have to spend 6 months on to figure out. This is a very college-like RPO-based simplified offense. That part of it's true.
Yeah, but can I interrupt you for just a second? It just it makes me laugh. You're right, Jimmy's right. You want to talk about a simplified offense? Who ran a more simplified offense than Jimmy Johnson with the Dallas Cowboys? Maybe no one in the last 40 years in the NFL. They basically tell you, here are the 8 plays we're going to run. We dare you to go ahead and stop them. So if Jimmy's going to point that out, that, oh, well, you know, they're not a really complicated offense. So what? Nobody said anything about you, and you were running.
Well, that's the point,
offense.
and that's where I was going with the no. And you're right about Jimmy. And I think the natural assumption is when you say that, because I've gotten this, is that you're insulting someone.
Right.
You're not insulting someone.
Not necessarily.
You're pointing out the reality of the fact. And you bring up Jimmy. Jimmy's very honest in his book. You know, we had 3 running plays. Yeah, everybody knew what was coming. I call it Larry birding people. When Larry used to go out, my favorite, one of my favorite basketball stories, Xavier McDaniel went out and told him, you know, last second shot, Celtics down 1 or 2. I think it was a 3-pointer. So down 2. He said, I'm getting the ball right there. He pointed to the spot. Game over. He got the ball. He went right to the spot, shot over X-Man, who was a great defender, by the way. Bang, right in his face. Jason Kelsey did it when he was mic'd up. He said, you know what's coming. 4th and 1 sneak. He told the defense, you know what's coming. And the Eagles did it. And, you know, first down. You can know what's coming, but it doesn't mean you can stop it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes the Eagles great. But I have brought up, and you probably remember me making the comparison to, you know, Navy at the college level or Georgia Tech back in the day. And you can't justify preparing for a certain offense more than the week you got to prepare for them because nobody else runs it. Now, it's not that drastic with the Eagles, but not a lot of people can do what the Eagles do. So it's difficult to spend a ton of your time getting ready for the Eagles. So the more you look at it, the more you see it. And that's why Washington, Dallas, the Giants, everybody has an advantage for the second game. You know a little bit more about your opponent. That's why we always have all these cliches about intra-division opponents, and it's more difficult to play a team twice, and they know each other so well, and all that stuff. All that stuff is true.
So does that kind of light a fire under JG's butt? Because if the Commanders are more well prepared for the Eagles because it's the second time they've seen them, shouldn't the Eagles be more well prepared for the Commanders?
Yeah,
on defense
works both ways.
Yeah,
works both ways. Works both ways. The Eagles should be more prepared for the Commanders. Now they've changed quarterbacks, so maybe there's a little bit of difference there. But yeah, they should be more prepared. It's not a one-way street. It is an arterial, as they say. It goes both ways through the entire city. I mean, the Eagles know more about the Commanders than they do about, say, Indianapolis next week or Tennessee coming up. They don't know a lot about those teams. They know about the Washington Commanders and the Cowboys and the Giants, even though they haven't played this year. They will by the second game. Yeah, that works for everybody.
I've got bad news for Jimmy Johnson. I think the Eagles' offense is revved and ready to go this week against Washington. I think they're going to put up a whole bunch of points. Now, Taylor Heineke, believe it or not, does scare me a little bit with his making.
Doesn't scare me at all, Jody. At all. I mean, at all. He is so limited. So limited.
Okay.
I hear what you're saying. He's got moxie. He's got people follow him. He's sort of like an untalented Jalen Hurts. People naturally want to play for him. He seems to give the team a little bit more juice, but man, he's so limited. He's just he doesn't have an NFL skill level. to be a starting quarterback.
Okay, but they're a couple of their skill guys. You've talked up their defensive line. I know Sirianni talked up their defensive line. I think the Eagles are going to move the ball very effectively against the Commanders this week. I think they're putting a 30-spot minimum up on Washington. But I do have a little bit of reservation as to the Skins being able to move it a little bit against the Eagles. I think it's going to be a more high-scoring game. And if you like high-scoring games, get down to the link on Sunday. I think that they're going to put up some points. Speaking of the Commanders, we're going to get a Washington look next. We've had him on the show before. I hope you enjoy when we have him on. I think he does a great job for 106.7 The Fan down in D.C. Grant Paulson, co-host of the Grant and Danny show on 106.7 down in our nation's capital, is going to stream in next with us. Give us all the Redskins skinny, which, oh, by the way, most of it has to do with off-the-field stuff. We're going to have to,
as always,
talk a little bit about that, but we will get to the matchup on the field on Monday night, Eagles versus Commanders. Grant Paulson next here on Birds 365.